your host with hopefully the most from Bill Highway. I think you guys all know, or the ones that have attended some webinars with us, that I am super excited about today's. We are doing something different from the feedback we've been getting. So we're going to be talking about the chapter development plan that we actually took from one of you CRPs, who we'll be talking about, and kindly let us share it with the entire group today. So today is not going to be just informational. It is going to be about filling in this tool together. So I have a request before we get started. For those of you who have not seen the email and downloaded the chapter development plan for 2017, we're going to drop a link into the chat in just a moment, or go and check your email. And I want you to download this PDF and print it out if you can. If not, just download it and have it up on your screen. And get a piece of paper out or notepad, because you can write it down there for now, or pull up a Word doc or Evernote or OneNote so you can take notes in there as we're going along. You don't have to, but you're going to get the most out of it if we do it together. If you're like me, you're saying, oh, you know what, this sounds great, this is super helpful, I'll type it in later, and then you never do. If you're that person, here is your motivation. Go and get a piece of paper or open up a Word doc or print this thing off. We're going to be rocking on it together today, creating our 2017 chapter development plan. This is for you. We'll talk about how you can use it, but we found a tool from somebody we were talking to, one of our component relations professionals, CRPs, and we thought this was an awesome exercise that you all should be doing. And I think you believe that too, because this is our most registered or highly registered webinar that we've thrown. And we've been doing this for almost, I think, 6 months now. So that's kind of apparent there, okay? So how's everybody doing? Please type into the chat. Give me a Y for yes if you can hear me. And give me a Y for yes if you can see my screen. So go ahead and type into the questions or the chat. Make sure that Beth, Scott, James, JP, did I pronounce that right? Monica, Diana, yes, yes. Jose, awesome. What's up? A ton of new faces today. Well, welcome to the webinar today, everybody. We work really hard to help you get the most out of this, okay? So we're going to learn how to create your own chapter development plan by using a provided template from not us, but one of you CRPs out in the world. So while everyone's getting their pieces of paper out, and they are downloading and printing their chapter development templates we sent out, I will introduce myself. Hello, Kim. I hope you are having a great day as well. John, what's up, man? It's good to see you in here. All right, so who am I? I'm Kyle Bazzi. I'm the Director of Growth here at Bill Highway. As some of you know, I'm a very proud Detroiter where we are headquartered. That's a little bit about me. Bill Highway is a technology that works specifically for people like you. So we say got chapters, and if the answer is yes, then we can help. And we were founded in 1999. So real big point here. I was having dinner in Washington, D.C. with the CRP of a really great association, and him and I have become friends over the past actually since last summer. I met him at ASE Annual, and he said something to me, admittedly after a couple of vodka and tonics, and he said, Kyle, you know, I just want to thank you because I've been recommending your webinars to people and to other CRPs, people that are at headquarters running chapters, and my friend said to me, the first thing was, well, what is he trying to sell me? And he said, I promised her that you guys don't sell because you've never tried to sell me. And I go, wow, I never really thought about that. I understand that you guys are being pitched 3 ways to the weekend. So here's my promise to you. We're not here to sell you anything. We found a big problem in the market, and that problem was there's no real place to go for CRPs, component relations professionals, where you guys can get great education on projects and initiatives that you're working on. You try to Google something like improving chapters at associations, and you don't get anything useful. ASAE does have some resources, and we have some other places to go to, but it's really hard, and you guys are essentially left out on an island. So that's my promise to you. Invite people, keep coming every week, watch the recorded videos. We're not going to sell you. We might send an email saying, give us feedback on the next topic you want us to cover, but you're not going to be sold, okay? So take a breath, rest easy. We're just here to dive into the content. And I am super pumped to announce that we've been working on ASAE to give us this accreditation for a while, showing them all the content and everything we're doing. And we are now CAE approved provider. So if you are a CAE, or if you aspire to be a CAE, you can now get your credits by coming to these live webinars. So real quick, if you are one, please type into the chat and let us know. We have to send an email to ASAE after this with all of the CAE registrants so we can get you guys your credit, okay? If you're trying to become a CAE too, awesome. I hope that we can help you in that path. If you're not, I'm going to guess somebody on your team is. Maybe it's the VP of membership, maybe it's your executive director, maybe it's some of your board members. Here's an opportunity to tell them, hey, you have to get your CAE credits every year. I've been telling you about chapter ROI, I've been telling you about fill in the blank chapter engagement projects or whatever. Why don't you come attend a Bill Highway webinar with me? You'll get your CAE credit. I'll buy you lunch. Heck, you know what? If you can get your executive director to these things and it's going to help you, tell me. I'll buy your executive director lunch because it'll help you get through the point that chapters are worth it when you invest into them. All right? If you're not willing to invest into them, then that's what you're going to get out of it. But we've been working really hard with the ASAE to get this accreditation. So now we are CAE accredited. Let us know if you are a CAE. We will get you some hours. And now you can attend these for more than just education. Okay, by now you should have everything. Oh, awesome. Diana, you're a CAE. We're going to get you credit. Sarah, you're becoming one. Awesome. Monica, you are one. Fantastic, peeps. Great to have you here. We are going to get you guys some credit hours. All right, so let's ask this question, and you know I like to start here. Why do you need a chapter development plan? And maybe you're asking, what is a chapter development plan? There's two very concise reasons that we learned, and I'll talk about from whom in just a minute. But number one is clarity. If you've never done this before, this is a chance to really set it in your own head. You might have notes all over the place. If you're like me, I send emails to myself, or I put notes in Evernote but then forget to look at them again. I have a conversation with somebody and I don't extrapolate the action items well enough. Today is about clarity. We're going to boil stuff down, okay? Nothing's ever easy. Everything's always hard, so just accept that, but we're going to make it simple. You fall down and you fail when we keep it complex. So today is all about clarity. And then the second is effective communication. This will become a tool not only to clarify things in your head, but to be able to communicate those to the parties that you lead, whether that's chapter leaders, whether that's the VP of membership on your team, maybe that's senior leadership or the board, you name it. This is also a tool to effectively communicate your role as a CRP, a component relations professional. So that's why we're doing this today, okay? And so Claudia Huss, she's the Vice President in Member Relations at the Association of Energy Services Professionals. She's the CRP at ASIP. And the purpose of, and she said this, the purpose of this chapter development plan is to create a pathway to enhance, revive, and inspire chapters to flourish. We've met Claudia and we've talked to her a ton now because she's been engaging us just getting help on how to improve her chapters. And through that, we saw this awesome tool she had created, and we said, this is fantastic. Do you mind if we share this and redesign it? Because she had it in a very functional Word doc, and we'd be happy to redesign it that you could use, but also could we share this with the community? And it's one of the things that I love about working with associations is how willing you are to improve each other. So Claudia, I'm giving you a round of applause. My heart goes out to you. We appreciate it. We put a lot of effort and work into helping CRPs, and the fact that you're so willing to share this with us, I think, is just a testament to the kind of person you are. So Claudia, thank you. We all thank you. I'm sure a bunch of people in this webinar, after we show it, will say thank you. Actually, people are already coming into the chat saying thank you. So Claudia, you're an awesome person. Okay, now that we have all of those intros out of the way, you can see right here, this is what we're going to be going over. The chapter development plan we have for this year, but obviously this could be a really good or will be a really good exercise for you to do at the end of every year to kick it off the next one. So this is the template Please give us feedback on things that you add or other ways that you're using it to find it successful. We would love to evolve this with the community every year so we can help create better clarity for all of us to go out into our own associations to improve them. So if you don't have it printed up, I have pictures on each slide so you can see which page we're on. But if you do have it printed up, follow along and fill this out, okay? It'll be really helpful for us to do this together. And I'm going to give you time in each section. I don't know what we want to call our little dudes here, but they're pretty funny. Okay, so page 1 is about setting your intent. That's what we're going to talk about is why are you doing this now? And that's kind of the summary and things we're going to be going through. So you can see on this first page, creating a little bit of a summary. So as we go and share this tool with other people, they know the purpose of this document. And here's some things I want you to ask yourself, and I want you to do this right now, okay? So I understand you're all busy, but take a second and I want you to either close your eyes, that's something that I do to help focus, and I want you to ask yourself this. What do you want to get out of this? What do you want to get out of this? What are your biggest challenges as a CRP today? What have they been in 2016? What do you foresee them to be in 2017? Is more focus on chapters something that you are trying to do? And usually you are, but is your headquarters staff focused on improving chapters? Because that answer is sometimes, and oftentimes, they don't care. And we're gonna figure a way around that. And then, is a picture of your chapter landscape for leadership, is that what you want to get out of this? Okay? So are we trying to enact change in chapters? Is your biggest challenge trying to get leadership on board? It can't be both, okay? You can have that as 1 and 2, but they can't be both of equal importance. You have to prioritize what you want to get out of this. That's number 1. And then, what are your current goals? What are your current goals as a CRP? Is it chapter engagement? Is it creating a better community tool for your chapter leaders? Is it attracting better talent as volunteers? Is it getting your leadership to understand that your chapters provide a great ROI? What are your current goals? And then, what is leadership asking from you? What were the strategic objectives that were laid out? What did they communicate to you? How do they operate with you? What are the questions that they're asking that maybe weren't defined on the strategic objective? So sometimes you got to read between the lines about what leadership is asking from you. And here's why. Because as you try to get things done, it's not about going up against everybody. It's about finding that easiest path to success. If you know how, or if you know what leadership's asking from you, we can use that to your advantage. And then, what do you absolutely have to get done in the next 11 months? It's already February. I don't know if you're thinking like me, like how the heck did we already get through a month in 2017? I feel like I was just at my New Year's Eve party. We have 11 months to enact change and to create positive impact at our organizations. So what do you absolutely have to get done? If your list is bigger than a few things, you're setting yourself up for failure. And throughout this whole thing, remember, shoot us questions. Tell me that I'm dead wrong, or Kyle, you're sounding like you took your crazy pills today. Let's interact in the chat if we can help you guys, okay? All right, so now that you have written some of those down, hopefully you have thought through some of those. Let's open up, or here's a diagram I want you to draw. So, draw this on the back of the piece of paper of the document you printed, or draw this on a doodle pad, whatever you got. I want you to draw 2 ovals. And in those ovals, I want those to overlap, all right? And in the left-hand side, I want you to put and write down chapter goals. In the right-hand side, you guessed it, we're going to write headquarters goals, all right? Now, this overlapping section right here is the CRP goals. That's you, your component relations professional goals. What are your goals? The reason that you live in the intersection is because you are the glue between the national or global headquarters and all of your chapters or your divisions or your state affiliates, whatever you call them, okay? And now I want you to start filling in some of your chapter goals. What are your chapter goals this year? And if your chapters are federated, they're going to be across the board. If your chapters are closely chartered or affiliated, then perhaps that they're more similar, okay? But I want you to ask something. What are the ones you know of, and what are ones that perhaps your chapter leaders have not voiced but you think are chapter goals? So what are those? And then I want you to write down what your headquarter goals are. I hope these are clear. Okay? I hope that they've laid out a strategic objective for you. I hope that they've given you a goal to say, if you do this, if you open up 3 more chapters, or if you increase event registration by X, or if you increase retention by 3%, or if you increase membership, on and so forth, that is your headquarter goals. Okay? So what are those headquarter goals specifically for you and the chapters and membership, but as an organization as a whole, what are those goals? So I hope you're writing those down. And now I want you to take a highlighter, or I want you to circle the goals that are similar or related on each side. And that's what goes in here. Okay? Now, Kyle, you're saying to me, that sounds so simple. I know it does. And I'm not saying that exactly what those are is what you're going to be working on. But this is an awareness tool for you to know, well, if I work on this and this, both sides of the equation that I lead are going to be aligned. It's a lot easier to start there, a lot simpler to start there than working on something with headquarters that the chapter doesn't care about, or working on stuff that chapters want to improve that HQ will never get on board with, and so you'll never get any kind of budget for it. Figure out what that intersection is. Okay, let me go back. Any questions on that? Is that something that you think is useful? Or are you telling me, Kyle, this is like elementary, get on with it? Because usually when I tell people this, it's kind of like, oh, you know what, that is a good idea. All right, we'll get to questions and then I'm going to get to. All right, cool, so let's move on. So the executive summary. So what we're going to do real quick, and this is where we're going to start, is I want you to create a concise statement about the overall healthier chapters. We're going to dive in and get into the weeds a little bit, and we'll come back to this, but I want you to see where you start, and then we'll see where you end. So create a concise statement about the overall health of your chapters. How are they doing? Okay, and that's at the top of page 2. So some things to consider and include. How many chapters do you have? Is that more or less than last year? Have any closed? Do you have some rogue chapters? Did chapter leadership change over and it's causing you a ton of headaches? Do you have gaps in chapter locations? We often hear that, we wish we could expand an XYZ location, or I wish we could do something like community groups that then can become chapters because we're really missing out on the geography. Current leadership versus new and seasoned. What does that look like? Just talk to me. So we wrote down chapter goals, but what are the chapter expectations? What do you keep hearing as a common theme across the group that they want from you? And then what are the number of chapter meetings and or events per year? I would write down what's the key activity for chapters, right? Is it events? Is it education? Is it certification? What are those key events or activities, that your chapters should be performing? And what does that look like as an executive summary? All right, so I'm trying to give you all a little bit of time on each one. So we're going to jump over. Now this is rounding out page 2 because we have some goals there, and also on page 3 is we're going to start talking about chapter development goals. I have so many. So list out the 3 to 5 goals you'd like to accomplish in the next year as it relates to your chapters. We just talked to an association where they just got done redoing their chapter incentive and awards program. So they're wrapping that up, and their next one is ramping up, which was improving their chapter email and communication tools. They were all on different tools, and it wasn't going very well, and there was no unified process to message and market to members and potential members. So what are your 3 to 5 goals you'd like to accomplish in the next year? Create actionable subtasks to accomplish those goals. Here's something you want to stay away from. If your goals look like improve chapter health, well then you don't have a goal at all, okay? The more specific you get, the easier it will be to accomplish or not accomplish that goal. Or put a better way, the easier it will be to measure success on that goal. If you're very broad, it might feel good. At the end of the year, it might be hard to define if you hit it or missed it, but you won't actually be moving things forward. So make sure they're clear and actionable. And then to determine who is your point person. If you're like many of the CRPs out there, you're a one-person band. So that's probably going to be you. But if you have a team, make sure that the person that has this, and it's great to delegate, but make sure they know that they own it, okay? And then assign a due date. So every time you set a goal in the tactic inside that goal, it should be clearly defined and actionable. You should know how to hit it. You should know who's responsible, where the buck stops. Now that doesn't mean they don't involve everybody. It doesn't mean that you aren't going to be helping, but someone has to be ultimately responsible. And then what is that due date? If all of your goals are due December 31st, 2017, you haven't thoughtfully thought through that, okay? Because there should be some goals that can be achieved earlier in the year that you're shooting for, all right? And this is how you can help manage your goals by exception. And then here is a question that is often very sad for you CRPs is there a budget for this initiative? Unfortunately, I don't think enough money is allocated for budget for you all. But as we start to gain momentum and find more success, hopefully we can change that by aligning it with HQ goals. But is there a budget for this initiative? Because if there's not, then we got to find creative ways to get around that. All right, we're getting a bunch of people typing in. This is awesome. Chelsea asked, what is a reasonable budget? Chelsea, that's a great question. So that's going to depend on your organization. And I know that's not the answer you're hoping to look for, but I would work with your senior leadership or find somebody on the senior leadership team that you trust and ask that question, and I'm going to frame it in a different way. What would it be worth to our organization, our association, if I was able to increase membership by 2%? What would it be worth if I could get retention up by 3%? What would it be worth, fill in the blank? And then back into your budget that way. Well, then how much are you willing to allocate to a budget for me to achieve that? Okay? So I would write those two questions down and talk to your senior leadership, and obviously people that are responsible for setting budgets, and ask those questions. So if I can do that in whatever method I need to do it in, then that's a good way of thinking about it. Chelsea, you are senior leadership. Okay, then I would ask you those questions. What is it worth to the organization if you accomplished those goals that are measurable on your strategic objectives? So let's say it's 4% growth in membership. What is that worth to you? And then what are you willing to invest, not spend? What are you willing to invest to get there? Okay? And then obviously, all the while staying solvent, right? Okay, chapter development goals. So going to page 4, talking about general support. So here's where we're going to start. This is the top section up here. What general support do you provide to chapters? Now, you can lie to yourself, and that's fine, but I want you to try to be as real as possible. What general support do you really provide to chapters? And here's why I say that, is if you have a quote-unquote community engagement tool that nobody's using, is it really support? And you might say, well, Kyle, all they got to do is log in and they can use it. Here's what I would say. This is, you probably heard this as a kid, right? Every time you point a finger at somebody else, you're pointing feedback at yourself. If something's not working, if something's not being engaged with, you have to figure out a different way of doing it, okay? Now, sometimes it takes time for people to get used to using that tool, but there's obviously not a compelling enough reason to use it. And what I would also tell you is somebody else in a different association is doing it a different way that is working, okay? So force yourself to get into a mindset that it's your fault first. And I know it sounds negative, and you guys know I'm a delusional optimist, but what I mean by that is I ultimately can control this, right? It's the Stoic philosopher's way of thinking. I ultimately can control this. Nothing that happens is good or bad. There's just opportunities and obstacles. So use it as an opportunity. But what general support do you provide to your chapters? So list out all the tasks, the services, the tools that HQ provides. Is it financial compensation? Is it member database and lists? Is it website creation and maintenance? Is it leadership meetings and professional development opportunities? Do you provide all the bank accounts so they don't have to do that? Do you have resources and templates for events and marketing and helping them reach non-members? Do you help with taxes? Do you help with more of the financial side of the house? Do you help automate the accounting and do functions like that so the volunteers aren't left coding general ledger entries? What are the resources you provide? I would write those down, and then I would reprioritize them by the ones that you think they care about the most, And I would have conversations with your chapter leaders to see if they agree. Because maybe you think you've checked the box on something, and your chapter leaders are saying, okay, it's there, but it's not useful. Maybe you're inheriting these services before you got there. Maybe you created them. But if you haven't validated or confirmed that they're helping, you need to rethink that, okay? All right. Man, I'm a little tough on you guys today. You can tell I'm a little jazzed up by this stuff. All right, so still on page 4. We're going to go to the second section. Continue to ask your questions. I see a bunch coming in still. We're going to get to a bunch of this, okay? Issues of concern. Where to start? So be frank here. I say be frank, not Peter or John, but be real. All right, so what are the true issues of concerns? What drives you nuts about your chapters, all right? So general support, I was a little tough on you up here. Issues of concern, go ahead and vent. And you know what? This might be a little fun. If you want to throw some of your concerns or your outlet for venting into the questions, I'll read a couple of them because most likely everyone else is thinking that too. But what are your issues of concern? What should your chapters be doing, but they're not? What drives you nuts about your chapters, right? Kyle, it's unbelievable. I still have 4 chapters that have not filed taxes from last year. That would drive me insane. Number of events they should be conducting. I've told the chapters if you throw 1 event per quarter that you're going to grow membership and still only half are. That would drive me nuts. Recording event attendance. Maybe they don't even know who's coming to these events or engaging in their education webinars. Updating web pages. It still shows the old treasurer. Kyle, I'm going insane. I get it. Write down all of those concerns. And then even type some in here too. I'd be happy to read some at the end of the webinar. All right, go ahead and keep writing those. Issues of concerns. As you're finishing those up, and who knows, we gave them what, 10 slots? Maybe you need 20 slots. I'm sure you do. But go ahead and just write it across the board. As you're finishing that, or already wrapped up, let's flip to page 5. So doing our research. So here's where we want to start. So conduct some research and get some stats, all right? So find 3 to begin with. You know, this is one of the challenges for you as CRPs, is finding different resources out there that help you learn, that help, I always call it iron sharpening iron, okay? That challenges your way of thinking. Evolve that, become obsessed with learning more. So conduct some research and let's get some stats on the projects, the issues, the goals that you have for this year. And so where should you look? If you've attended our webinars, if you checked out our knowledge bank on our website, you see that we list a ton of different resources and we're constantly trying to gather better ones for you out there. But when we were talking to Claudia on this, and I talked to a lot of CRPs, the websites of other associations are definitely a good place to start. Now you want to find associations that have a similar chapter structure as you, and maybe sometimes even looping in some that aren't so you can learn. But let's talk to other chapter leaders, okay? If you're new to the game, if you're a new CRP, or if you just want to network a bit more, tell us what your initiatives are. And we do this all the time. And we'll connect you with other leaders, other CRPs. We'll connect you with other associations that are similar, maybe have gone through that project, and can tell you what the pitfalls and the key milestones are, okay? You're not in this alone. I know it's hard to find information on the web, but we'll connect you with other CRPs. Or if you already have some, or if you're going to an event soon, network and be honest, like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And I promise you that kind of conversation, 9 times out of 10, is going to be like, oh, have you tried this? Oh, have you talked to this CRP? Oh, have you seen this association? So let's network. You guys got to network. And then obviously, as you are on today, there's different webinars, both recorded and live. Tell us what your biggest problems are, and we'll do the research for you here at Bill Highway. We've done that a lot for CRPs. That can help you guys further your knowledge on the projects you're working on. And then there are some really good consultants out there. You guys have heard me talk about Mariner Management. Peter and Peggy are incredible people. I really look up to them and learn a ton from what they do. They've been doing this for a long time in the association space for chapters. I consider them the chapter leader when it comes to consulting. Cynthia Diamore in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right by us. She does some really incredible stuff on People Power Unlimited for volunteers and how to grow volunteers at chapters and volunteer challenges, attracting great volunteers. There's MGI, so Marketing General Incorporated, who does a lot of good stuff. Vanessa Dennison is another one that we work with that does some really great things. So just, you know, there's a lot out there that we can connect you with as well, but look for a consultant and have a conversation with them. And then also have conversations with your current chapter leaders, your board, and your staff members. I'd say if I had to give you an 80-20, 80% here, 20% here, okay? 80% here with your chapters especially, 20% up here. I'll call my buddy. All right, so just to list those resources out, and we'll drop these three into the chat right now. So the Mariner Management 2016 Chapter Benchmark Report, the MGI 2016 Benchmark Report, and then we'll drop a link to our association resources knowledge bank. That's where we have not only our stuff, but we've gathered a bunch of white papers, we've gathered a bunch of other materials from around the web that we think are very useful for the projects you guys are working on. Okay, so everyone is feverishly writing stuff down. Let's talk about next the analysis of chapters. And so Scott, Chelsea, John, Heba, I see a bunch of people in here. Steve, I'm going to get to your questions, I promise. We'll get to them at the end because I'm going to be covering some of it in the next few slides. Okay, now this one's going to take a little bit of time depending on how many chapters you have, but we think this helps. This is a good exercise to help you get everything out of your head and onto paper. And that's the analysis of chapters. So list out all of your chapters, okay? List them all out and maybe even bucket them into your troublemakers, your, you know, they're not problem makers, but they're not all-stars, and then bucket the other ones like these. I wish everybody was like these chapters. Segmenting them actually can be a really good exercise for you because you can start to figure out why and trying to get the troublemakers to be more like the all-stars. But provide at least one strength, one weakness, and one opportunity / recommendation per chapter. If you take the time and do this across all of them, those will boil up so you can see which goals you should be working on that will make the greatest impact. All right. So this is a really good exercise. And maybe you're doing a couple right now, but I'm sure it'll take you a few more minutes, and I'm going to allot time here on the slide. But I want you to ask yourself, how long has this chapter been around? I want you to ask questions like, have they collaborated with any other organizations to host events? Okay? Have they collaborated with any other organizations to host events? Is chapter leadership engaged? Is chapter leadership been there for a long time and has choice words about working with headquarters? Is membership growing or is it declining? Is the membership at those chapters growing or declining? Can you find all the ones that it's declining at and find out why? Can you bucket those and see similarities and traits? Maybe it's location. Maybe it is leadership. Maybe it is they don't throw enough events. Can you figure out what that looks like? So at least you can bring clarity to that problem. This is a really good exercise, and I'm hitting at a very high level. You can go really deep here. This is probably one of the best exercises you can do. And one of the things I would do is after you roll something out, okay, so the gentleman I just talked to at an association that is rolling out or just got done launching relaunching an awards and incentives program for his chapters, is I would look at, first off, right when you launch the program, write down everything you can think of. What went well in the rollout, what's not going well, what was easy, what was really difficult to get the chapters to understand, or maybe your senior leadership team or HQ staff to understand. And then find a time frame that you're going to come back and reread all of that, and then also write down how it's been going. Have you hit your goals? Why or why not? What have been the pros and cons? What has people just easily gravitated to that you can learn for your next project? Is it accomplishing what you set out for it to accomplish? Or is it you relaunched it, fantastic, you checked the box, but it did not make a material impact? I'm not saying to share that with anybody. It's probably good if you do, But if you don't, at least you can be real and you know it. And then review your goals, okay? So I'm jumping from 5 to 10, and we're going to be jumping to page 11 in here in just a second. But this is an incredible exercise for you to do this for your chapters, okay? All right, so reviewing goals. And I actually think the gentleman I'm talking about is in the webinar. I think I just saw his name. So glad you're here. I learned a lot from our conversation. I hope you know that. And I think you're doing an incredible job. You actually had some good clarity in 2017, which was awesome. All right, so reviewing goals, let's reevaluate now. All right, so when you go through this whole process, it's good to kind of come back and figure out, are my goals clear and concise? Are they going to accomplish the things I need them to? Do I have the right ones, right? We did that, the two ovals, that sit in between what I can get done with HQ and what I can get accomplished with my chapters, okay? All right, so reevaluate. Now that you have a good idea on your chapter's strengths and weaknesses, use that to revise and update your goals. Share it with somebody, okay? Maybe you want a clean draft. Maybe you have some very sensitive stuff in here you don't want to share with everybody. But I would take this and share it with someone. Maybe, and it doesn't have to be your organization, but give it to a different CRP. If they read it and they can't make sense of your goals right away, maybe you need to go back to the drawing board and you need to define those a little bit better, okay? Somebody typed into the chat, I forgot who it was, when you make your goals, you have to make them, it's the acronym SMART. Specific, measured, actionable, realistic, and timely. And that was actually Mr. Scott. It's great to see you, Scott. So if they're not SMART goals, then like I said, you're already setting yourself up for failure. When you share it with someone, give it to them and say, hey, I want you to challenge me here, okay? I want you to tell me, help me think through or ask me questions that I might not have asked myself, okay? That is ironing, sharpening iron, all right? That is a very good exercise when you do this chapter leadership plan. And then take this, whether it's this specific one or a version of it, and present it to leadership. When you create this tool, it's actually going to elevate you and your status when you're showing leadership how you're thinking through your chapter development plan. Okay? It is an effective tool to communicate to them. And then every quarter or every year or however often you're looking at it with them, you can come back and benchmark it towards that. So it doesn't feel like every year you're going off in different directions. Even if you're not, sometimes when you're not communicating it effectively, it feels like you are from the rest of your team. Okay? So review or present this to leadership, and this will help create a stronger relationship there because now you're able to effectively communicate what you're trying to get accomplished. Okay, so those are all the pages. I'm going to answer some questions in a sec. But here's something that this got shared with me years back when I started my first tech company and raised a bunch of money for it. Was they looked at me and they said, and I never forgot this, the 3 roles of good leaders. All right? I think I've shared this in webinars before. But number 1 is to define reality. And that was something I wasn't doing. You have to define reality. So if there's a very big challenge or something that happened, are you defining reality for all of the appropriate stakeholders, right? Not giving an opinion, not leading somebody down a path, but do you define reality? This is a big problem. You don't think it's a big problem. We need to come to a consensus on why, right? So defining reality for everybody. The second one is effectively serving those that you lead. If you want to be an effective leader, it's not about you doing everything. And if you're like most of the CRPs I talk to, you guys are wildly busy. You're constantly getting calls from chapters. You're constantly flying out to chapters or planning the next event for the Chapter Leadership Summit. You're crazy busy. For you to be effective, you need to serve those that you lead. When you define reality and you delegate, now you can serve those that you're leading. And if you say, well, Kyle, I don't have anyone working for me or anyone on my team, then what I would say is you need to concentrate even more on that one thing that's going to make an impact so you can get bigger budget and you can push for bigger budget next year. Because if you're growing your chapters, if you're effectively leading your chapters, they will become selling machines for HQ. Whether that's them selling membership and giving you guys more per capita, or whether that's them getting more people to events, where now you have more non-members to market to. If you're doing it effectively, you will grow your team. I promise you that. And then the third step, the last step, is to say thank you. Expressing gratitude to the ones that are helping you get it done. You want to break down barriers, express gratitude. Is there someone that's just a huge pain in the ass? And I'm saying ass because it's real and we're getting real with each other. Maybe it's your VP of membership, maybe it's your ED, maybe it's your board, maybe it's that chapter out in Alabama. Express gratitude. If you express gratitude, it's not going to happen overnight, but you disarm the people that are giving you problems, okay? So define reality, communicate that effectively serve those that you lead, and be passionate about that, and then say thank you. If you're not passionate about this job, get a new one, okay? Because you're never going to create change if you don't care. This was a quote that we had read, and I just think it's an awesome part of leadership. Leadership is not about knowing everything. Leadership is not about saying, I have all the ideas, or I'm going to impress my ideas upon you. This is what leadership, or effective leadership, is all about. All right, so in a second, I'm going to tell you to help me so I can help you, but what I want to get to is a couple of questions real quick. So I'll keep this quote up right now. So Heba asked, thanks, setting your intent is easy with a couple of chapters. But what about when you have over 200 of them? Great question, Heba. And Heba, I hope I'm saying your name right, H-E-B-A. If I'm not, please let me know and throw me some pronunciation links so I can do that better. I'm terrible at that, and I apologize. But anyway, so setting your intent with 200 chapters. So that exercise we went through, and we wrote down, and Heba, this is going to take you a while, but I would do it. I would go through and write down the analysis of the chapter, so page 5 through 10. You're going to need more than 10 pages. But write down what those chapters look like, okay? And write down what those strengths and weaknesses are. When you come to that consensus, you'll see what boils up. You're right. A lot of chapters are going to want stuff that you just can't work on this year. But figure out what everybody wants, or maybe not everybody, a majority of them want in our big hitters. The reason being is you can communicate to the 200, hey, here's what I heard. Here's a list of 14 things that you want us to take care of at HQ. I can't do it all. So here's where I'm starting, okay? I promise you I'm going to work my butt off to get to the rest of them, but I need your guys' help. But reasonable people will understand that, okay? And if there's some that aren't reasonable, you're going to get that too. You're going to get those hecklers. But the group consensus will be, we understand that. Even if you're not working on what I want this year, I understand the stuff you are working on. So how about that's the way I've seen really good CRPs do that. We have an association client that has 746 chapters. There's states and there's more regional locals too. And it's hard. You got a lot of cooks in the kitchen at times. But what we've seen them be successful at is setting their intent that way, okay? And then communicating what you're not doing as well. That's a surefire way to not make everybody like you, or maybe not everyone's going to be happy about it, but they'll respect that kind of approach to it. And then when you fail or you fall down, admit it. Say, hey, we screwed up on this, but we're gonna try better next time. We want your feedback on how we can do that. Creating that dialogue over time is super important. And please let me know if that answered your question. We see a lot of CRPs do that with a lot of our bigger association clients. All right, John, are there particular ways people say thank you to chapter leaders besides the fact of actually saying thank you? I put money in the budget for this year to provide them with a token of some sort, nice logo, travel cup, or something. John, that's an awesome question. One way is, first off, you can ask them how they would like it. But I'll give you some examples too. So we hired somebody a couple months ago who is RJ Carr. I'm sure a lot of you have talked to him. And he's our CRP advocate. And what we wanted to do was have RJ go out and interview all of you CRPs. And in those interviews, we were just trying to figure out, what are your biggest problems? Where do you look for education? Why are a lot of people attending our webinars, quite frankly, when we didn't have a brand in the association space just a short year ago? So we could refine our process in creating better content for you that solved the current problems you're working on. RJ, to say thank you, it wasn't much. We weren't trying to make a financial impact, but we sent out a $5 Starbucks gift card, I think it was, just to show that we were thankful. And I'll tell you that it's not the size often, it's just the thought. Another way, John, is write them a handwritten note. In the day and age of Twitter and LinkedIn messages and emails, if you write a hand letter note and you just speak from the heart, and I know that sounds all mushy, but I wear my heart on my sleeve, is just writing out like saying, hey, I know, even if it's someone that you haven't gone along with in the past, and I'd say that, hey, look, I know we don't always see eye to eye, but I want you to know that I'm trying to help, and I want you to know that with the way you did X, Y, Z, I really appreciate it, and I'm not always going to do what everybody wants, but I promise you I'm trying to make things better around here. And if you just speak like that, I think that appreciation goes a really long way. And answer this question. How many handwritten letters have you gotten in the past year? How many? How many handwritten letters have you gotten in the past year from people you work with? I got 2 last year, okay? And so in 2016. So this is a way to show them there's appreciation. So those are a couple of ways that we've done it that I found really successful, John. All right, Heba said, congrats, you're one of the only ones who said it right on the first try. Oh, great, awesome. I'm glad I'm pronouncing it right. So Gay asked, who answers these goals from the chapter? Great question. If you haven't sent out as a CRP a survey to your chapter leaders, it's time to do so. We email or type in and we'll send you some survey templates. You need to send a survey out to them and asking them what their chapter goals are for the year. And again, this is the way you get to speak. Don't make it so cut and dry. Just tell them, hey, look, my goal is to improve relations with you guys. My goal is to help solve problems for you. My goal is to provide better tools and services. But everyone in a federated model, these chapters have, or state affiliates have different goals. So literally ask them. And then, Gay, what I would do is call some up, all right, and get a diverse set. So call some of your bigger ones that they're so big that they have some of their own staff and they have their own technology. Call the little ones that it's a mom and pop shop and they've been doing it for 10 years and they don't have any technology, right? They're still writing stuff on napkins and using Excel spreadsheets. And just ask, what are your guys' goals this year? And be the key phrase is seek to understand before you seek to be understood. Seek to understand before you try to get your agenda across, okay? And in these surveys, it should just be about understanding, so then you can roll out initiatives. Great question, Gay, and you absolutely should be looking to do that. Beth, I would like a survey template. Awesome. So my marketing team is listening to me right now, and they are going to make sure to get that over to you. James, do you have a set of principles you communicate or share with all chapters, sort of a framework, so they understand your philosophy approach for quote-unquote the family? That's a great question, James. So here's, let me put a little bit of caveat in that first. One is, going back to what I just said, making sure that you're seeking to understand them first before you seek to be understood, okay? The reason that works more effectively is because now you can frame what you're trying to get done in the group's consensus rather than just what HQ wants. So absolutely, you should have a set of core values or a set of principles, as you're saying, but I would set them with the chapters, collaboratively with the chapters. Put a working group together and define the working group's goal to set core values for the family. That is tremendously important. James, if you haven't read a book called Traction by Gino Wickman, I would suggest it. It's an incredible book that part of the book talks about setting core values and how to do so. There's a really great exercise where you get the group together and you write down everything that you appreciate in just free thinking and whiteboard about chapter leaders. I love how Jacob in New Jersey throws, he's so passionate about throwing events. I love how Kathleen in the California chapter, she's at every chapter leadership summit, right? You can start writing down the traits of things that you enjoy, and then in the group, collaboratively start boiling those down to the 3 to 7. 3 to 7, those are magic numbers. I don't know why, but they are. 3 to 7, and it says it in this book. Core values or set of principles that help everybody understand the philosophy and approach. But now doing it collaboratively allows everybody to get on board rather than seemingly like HQ trying to push something down somebody's throat, which I'm sure you guys have been accused of before, either rightfully or wrongfully. James, let me know if that helps. Gay, helping a chapter is like running a business well, right? 100%, yeah. And just because you're nonprofits, all that, you're still a business. All it means is you don't share profits among shareholders. That's the difference between nonprofit and profit status, okay? A very simplified version, obviously. But you should be running it like that. Your members are your customers, and the products that you should be creating or help creating should be being driven by client or from customer or member demand. What do they want, right? Is it certifications? Is it education? Is it events and networking? Is it to further their career? Figure out what the members want, and you might have to work with your membership team on that if you're not responsible for it. And that's what you should be doing with your chapters. Turn your chapters into a franchise where you're supporting them and they're just killing it down the line, providing that membership value, which will then turn into money. There's a saying at a big company in Detroit called Quicken Loans, ran by billionaire Dan Gilbert, who owns Cleveland Cavaliers. And he was an investor of mine at my past company. And one of his core values at his company is money follows. Money follows. Money doesn't lead, right? Trying to figure out how to squeeze every penny out of it will help you in the short term, but not in the long term. You got to figure out how to add as much impact for these members as possible. The money will follow, okay? James, very helpful. Awesome, man. I'm glad that was helpful. John, seems like the set of principles for the family is really a brand proposition. How is that chapter living the brand of the organization and having that discussion with them? So I agree with you. All right, so John, I'm going to go on the flip side of the narrative now. If you collaboratively came up with this stuff, okay, and you can make it known, hey, I'm collaborative. I want to know, I want to hear from you chapter leaders, okay? But understand this isn't a democracy. We're not going to vote on these. I'm trying to better work with you. And then we're going to set these principles, right? Then you might take the information or that feedback, and then you're going to do it with your headquarters staff and set those actual core principles. And then you're going to share them with everybody and say, this is who we are. Time to get on board. You're right. The buck does have to stop somewhere, John. It can't be all kumbaya. But if you don't involve your chapter leaders, you're making your job tremendously harder. There's no doubt about that. Let me get through a couple more questions here. Okay, I got some more good questions that are coming up. If you've got some more, drop them into the chat. But real quick, if you can point your attention back to the screen, I want you to help me help you. So there's this really great improvement cycle that I just want you guys to adopt as a mantra. It's act, plan, study, or do, study, okay? Or maybe it starts down in study, wherever you're at in the process. But I want you to think through this, and it's one of these things where like it seems super simple, but it's really powerful, is you need to study, and a lot of you are right now in researching before you act. And you need to plan before you do. And then you need to continue this virtuous cycle for improvement, okay? And understand that there are times where challenges far outweigh successes, and there's going to be times of triumph that make it seem like all of your challenges have melted away. But understand that it isn't a line, it's a circle, okay? It's a roller coaster. It's a pendulum, whatever analogy you want to use. So help me help you. So we're going to be doing something. I'm going to announce it on the next slide. That's free, and you can get CAE credits for it. But we talked about setting 2017 chapter initiative. So that might be your chapter restructuring. We hear about this one a lot. Maybe it's changing the bylaws. Maybe it's you need to set new affiliation agreements. Maybe it's selling this idea to senior leadership of the board. Defining your chapter ROI. If you're asked questions like, why do we have chapters? What are the chapters doing for us? Or no budget's being allocated towards the chapters, that tells you everything in that, right? Defining your chapter ROI. Is that an initiative this year? Maybe creating dashboards and identifying the right data to tell a story. Or improving engagement with your chapters. We had a really well-attended webinar just a couple weeks ago on different tactics to improve the engagement with your chapters. Or tell us what your 2017 chapter initiatives are, and here's how we're going to help. We've been asking what's the next evolution from these webinars, and we're introducing the Build Highway Roadshow. This was an idea that Mr. R.J. Carr, our CRP advocate that we hired in D.C., came up with, and so we're going to test it out. On February 8th, we're going to be in Chicago, and we're going to be at the Office Port Graham Conference Room, where we're going to be hands-on for, I think it's 90 minutes. We already have a good amount of CRPs signed up, and some of the CRPs are actually bringing other people from their headquarters team, like membership and things like that. And we're going to be diving into these topics, all right? We're going to be diving into them. We're going to be handing out resources. In an hour webinar, we can get a good amount done. 90 minutes in person, we can get light years further than just a webinar. So, and it also allows you to get out of the office to concentrate on this. And again, you'll get 1.5 CAE credits since it's 90 minutes if you are a CAE. So it might be a good opportunity if you're in Chicago to bring some of your other team or senior leaderships that are CAE. And then on February 22nd, we're going to be going to Reston, so just outside DC in Virginia. And same thing, we did these two cities because it's the highest concentration between the two of CRPs. If you're in a different city, I apologize, but we'd be happy to jump on the phone with you or make an office visit if you'd like our help as well. Purely informational. We're not selling you guys. You're not coming to these locations and you're going to get a Bill Highway product pitch. The only thing I'll say about Bill Highway is we are from Bill Highway, okay? We've put a huge Dropbox folder of resources together depending on what project you're talking about. And we want to share that with you and help give you better resources and help actually get you to be working on these things or connect you with consultants or connect you with other CRPs that can help you out, okay? I know that Chicago's almost full. I think Reston, we had to already get a new place because we had so many people sign up that, again, this is the first time we're doing it, that we had to go to a different location. So if you are interested, let us know. We'll drop the link in the chat right now, as well as we will send out the follow-up email with the recording of this webinar where you can sign up there as well, okay? So again, old advice, it still works well. It's about organizing. Amen, dude. James, very helpful, awesome. Let me see if I missed any questions here. I think we got most of them that were related to this. Scott, this is a good one. So big issue, lack of innovation, stuck in the mindset of it's the way we've always done it. Oh my gosh, we hear that so much. But the industry is changing rapidly. Scott, let me address this one real quick, because what is important here is you're right. Sometimes big changes can be really hard if you're stuck in a poor culture. And so if you're going to be there, then make it happen. That's the number one thing I would tell you. If you're going to be there and just accept that reality, you're doing nobody any good. Go to a different place that fits your culture better. But if you're going to be there because you're passionate about it, you're going to make a change. That's it, okay? That's the mindset you are going to accept because you are going to be successful as a CRP. What I would say is try to find small wins, okay? Try to find small wins that add up to big wins. And keep finding small wins, and there's a saying, release good news slowly, release bad news quickly. When you get good news, just the perception of it sometimes can be more important than the impact. So if that's your problem, continue this momentum of little wins so they start perceiving the chapter relations as like, maybe we should be investing in this, okay? Because here's what I will say. I was in DC for a different meeting with this great association who has an incredibly awesome CRP, and they, for a long time, have been doing it because it's always the way it's been done, and now they're not. All right, so you're right. Maybe the past 5, 6, 7 years that he's been there, it's been always the way it has been, but now it's not. And he's actually got the team on board, and it's a group of people that are making this change, but he's my main contact. He's leading a change of the bylaws, right, which is incredibly hard to do, and he's taking it on full force. So he wasn't until he was, is what I'll tell you. But Scott, you're absolutely right. The mantra of it's always been this way, man, that's so damn hard. All right, well, we are to the top of the hour here, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I hope you like this new format. We're going to be doing it more often if this is helpful. We hope to see you out in Chicago next week and in a couple of weeks in Reston if you're available. Please let us know if you're a CAE. We are so pumped to be able to give you those credits, but even more pumped to just help out the chapter relations professional community. Hope everybody has an incredible Thursday. One more day to the weekend. Stay warm if you're like us here up in Detroit. Please give us feedback on how we're doing. We want to make sure that we're really adding a lot of value for you guys. Until next time, enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon.